I'm a blue collar kind of man, and I don't wanna hurt your feelings, baby, so listen up. Yeah, I've had one too many Bud Lights. It's got me feeling right. I've been smoking on these Marlboros. I don't know where I'ma go. I'ma take you to the farm. Yeah, show you how we get down. I'ma take you to the farm. Yeah, show you how we get down. Baby girl, that is my horse. Yeah, and those all are my sheep. I'ma take you to the farm. Yeah, maybe show you how to milk a cow. I'ma take you to the farm.
What the fuck?
Yeah, guys, if you didn't already know, I'm a pretty good country singer and songwriter. And I don't know, man. They just haven't picked me up yet. I haven't got a manager. Nobody's offered me any deals. I don't know what the hell is going on, bro. You clearly heard that fucking angelic ass shit that I recorded in one take. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's my next move, being an ultra famous country singer. I don't know, guys. You tell me. Shit. I think I'm pretty fucking good, man. Anyway, hope you guys are ready for another fucking episode. Let's go. Roll the fucking intro music.
Who is that nasty?
Zach will kill you and fuck your bitch.
People pay $1 million for one drop of my sperm.
Okay, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed that little piece of music that I gave you for free, might I add. I didn't charge you to hear that. I'm such a fucking good guy for that shit, dude. Putting my music out there for free. Man, it's not monetized. I'm making no profits off my shit. Yeah. So sometimes when I'm bored, I just will make random music. I have a lot of hip-hop rap songs that are actually, I don't know, I actually tried a little bit on some of those, and then I made some, like, obviously you heard country, and then I also made some like bubbly pop kind of music, you know what I mean, that you kind of feel like you put on when you're about to go for a jog or something. So, but it's all in good fun. Anyway, what the fuck is up? How are you guys doing? I'm doing this regularly now, even though I've said that before. This is way more regular than my previous schedule. And I'm fucking digging it, except for the fact that I really have to dig inside my brain for memories and things. So that's a little frustrating sometimes, because I can be going through the day, working or whatever I'm doing, and I'll have all these memories pop into my head, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to talk about that or this or that or this. And then I get home and I just completely forget. You know what I mean? So I'm doing better trying to, like, write it down or make a little note in my phone or something while I'm at work or wherever I'm at when I get an idea. But today, I wanted to talk a little bit about some drugs. In particular, psychedelics. But even more in particular, acid. And the first time I tried acid, which was a crazy fucking thing. And so anyway, the first time I tried acid, I was 14. Go figure. I experienced a lot of new things when I was 14. Because if you've been listening, you know that's when I was released from fucking prison for kids and released to my mom in her custody, right? I was living with my dad before that, and that last time I got arrested, I guess, was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and he contacted my mom somehow. I don't know how, because we were never able to get a hold of her before I got arrested, you know what I mean? It was like a So I don't know how he got a hold of her. Maybe he contacted my grandma Vicky or some dumb shit. I don't know. Anyway, he kicked me out because I guess he was just fed up with it. I can understand being a single dad and your eldest child just being a hoodlum. You know what I mean? Robbing, stealing, fucking assaults, and fucking... I can't even tell you how many times I have been locked up for domestic violence because of drama with my baby mama. I didn't try to rhyme right there, but back when I was young, I caught a lot of domestic violence charges because back then in Washington State, there's no self-defense law. So if a woman calls the police and just says that she was assaulted without any proof, then they automatically take the side of the woman. I don't fucking know why. I don't even know if that's changed or if it's still standing as is, but it was really fucked up. And I got a pretty good story on how I went to jail for domestic violence, all because of an egg salad sandwich. Believe it or not. So anyway, but I lived with my mom for quite a while, and we did and experienced a lot of stuff that normal kids wouldn't experience or even know exist if they weren't exposed to that lifestyle, right? So I was a fuck up before I moved with my mom, or before my mom, just kind of swooped me up and we did our thing. I was a fuck up, but I like here's a good example. I didn't even really know about the internet or the extent of the internet until I was like 13. Because up until that point, I had regular kid fun. I would go outside and I would skateboard 90% of the time, and I would, fight and steal shit from the store and not be on the internet. But back then, when I was, 13, was when MySpace was really popular. And I just didn't know about it until this one time I got arrested. I heard about it in juvie, and then I got out, and I asked my dad about it, I guess, and he helped me make my first MySpace and shit like that. So it's because of my dad, really, that I even, got into everything like YouTube and MySpace and the internet and stuff like that. Like, he created my first email address, and I didn't even fucking know what that was. So yeah, but God. Okay, now we're good. Okay. But yeah, I didn't know about that stuff, but I was just a fuck up in regular ways. You know what I mean? And I didn't know about a lot of things in life because I wasn't exposed to those things. You know what I mean? I was just like stuck in my way as a kid. You know what I mean? Experiencing whatever. I mean, I experienced some fucked up shit, but once I went and lived with my mom and it was just a completely different lifestyle, I found out a lot of things and figured out a lot of things. And I think, it obviously made me who I am today, but it made me grow up really fast. I couldn't really be a kid with no worries because I was a kid that had to worry about where I was going to get my next meal from, or where I was going to sleep, or, what me and my mom are going to do in the morning when we wake up because we're sleeping in a van, you know what I mean? Or I'm sleeping on the roof of a fifth wheel. So it's weird. It's really weird when you think about it. But anyway, so my mom is responsible for introducing me to this movie called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I guess I'll start there. We lived in this trailer out in the woods, right? When I got released from child prison, my mom swooped me up, we did shit, and then we went to go stay at Sid's house. That was his name, Sid, like Sid the Sloth. And it was nice because it was private. I've said this before, so I won't go into it much, but it was just a single wide trailer, private, on its own land and everything, so it was cool. But the shitty part about it is that my mom and Sid, were always on these adventures, because that's what drugs do. You know what I mean? Drugs will, take you on these adventures and make you think you need to go do all this stuff, or it'll just make you go do all this stuff so you could do other stuff. It's fucking weird unless you've been in that kind of life. So it's hard to explain, but there was a lot of times where I'd be at home alone. You know what I mean? Just me and my bong and my first generation Xbox that I didn't even know about until I went there. I didn't even know what an Xbox was until I fucking moved to Sid's house. And this was like 2006. And I didn't know what an Xbox was. It was weird. That's when I found out about Halo, the first Halo, and you could not get me off that fucking game. And that was awesome. But anyway, one of the main things I did to pass time was watch movies. And my mom came home one day and introduced me to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which, if you have not seen it, it is just one of the best movies, if not the best movie, in my opinion, ever fucking made. Johnny Depp is a genius, and it's such a dynamic duo with him and the guy that plays his attorney. It's fucking amazing, and it changed my life. The first time I saw that movie, I was so drawn in because I didn't know that kind of stuff existed. So I got really into wanting to try psychedelics and shit. I mean, I would sit around and smoke pot all day, but I wanted something way more psychoactive. Man, that's kind of annoying when I take a sip from my coffee and it's that loud. Anyway, I wanted something more than, or I wanted to experiment with stuff to kind of expand my mind, right? I saw Johnny Depp in this movie. They had all these different drugs that I've never even fucking heard of, and I was drawn in. I was so taken back. And time goes by, and to this day, I've watched the movie, no shit, probably at least 1,000 times. At least. I know every line and every part of the movie, for fucking word, behind the scenes, everything. That's how crazy I am about this movie. So one day I was talking to my mom when she was home about wanting to try acid, and a few days later she came home with some acid. And I'm going to set the premise a little bit. It's mid-July, so I had just turned 15, I think. And so it was beautiful weather, perfect time to take acid. And the next day, I had a couple friends that lived in town. John, which is a long fucking story on how I know him, and it's crazy. It's crazy that we met back up at this point in my life when I first met him when I was just a young child in the trailer park, and him and his dad moved in next door to our trailer, and I didn't know him for very long, but one of the things I remember about him is he beat the shit out of my cousin Jeff. We all, made a date for this fight to happen, and fucking we all marched up there, and fucking Jeff and John start going at it, dude. And John's a bigger guy. I mean, he's probably 225, around 5'9" to, maybe 6 foot. And Jeff is 130 pounds and 5'9" maybe. And he's just a bitch. Anyway, John beat the shit out of him. They went at it, and Jeff put his head down, and John hit him with this fucking mean uppercut, and you could just hear it and immediately his face is red and blood starts dripping everywhere. And then John hits him, with a few more, maybe a couple straight jabs. And then Jeff starts backing up, and he runs away to the asylum in the fucking church. And he was like, "Oh, asylum," you know what I mean? You can't touch me in the church kind of shit. But John and the dude he was with chased him out of there anyway, and chased him around town and shit. I didn't follow, but that's how I remember John. And years later, I was randomly at the beach with my mom smoking weed. And guess who walks around the corner with his dad? Fucking John, dude. It was the craziest fucking thing. And he was like, I fucking know you, man. And I was like, dude, I know you too. What the fuck? It was like the weirdest random fucking thing. And we ended up smoking a lot of weed that day. And then we ended up clicking. And he was like, yo, you need to come back to my house. We'll drink some 40s and shit. So we became friends that would hang out every time I got to go to town. And so I had plans for him and one of his friends to just come kick it on the property and like smoke and maybe go walk around the woods and shit. But now my mom's giving me acid. So I'm like, okay, we can take acid and it'll be fun. So the day comes where John and his friend come over and we're kicking it. It's the morning time. We're kicking it. And it's like not long after the 4th of July. So he had whatever fireworks he had in his backpack. And they brought bikes because even though we were living in the woods, we weren't far from the beach. So we rode our bikes to the waterfront that morning, and we were just smoking by the water, lighting off firecrackers and, you know, just being teenagers. And it was a really good time. And then we went back to the trailer and we were just kicking it, you know, smoking some more weed. And then I remembered that I had some acid. So each one of them, because in the movie, I'll say this, in the movie, Johnny Depp's attorney hands him like this sheet that's like, you know, like a 2-inch by 2-inch square sheet of acid, which was like 18 hits or something like that. Crazy amount. People have died from taking that much. It'll literally send you somewhere else. Crazy, not as strong as DMT in my opinion, but it'll still send you to another dimension for sure. And so they each get a hit of acid, and I got 2 little pieces missing off my sheet, right? Because my mom gave me a sheet of acid. Wow. Excuse me. I just ate a lot of cereal bars because I ran out of cereal. Anyway, they each took a hit, and then I had the rest of this sheet, which was like 8 or 9 hits. And I was completely new to it at the time, and I didn't know how much to take or anything. And I saw them take, you know, 1 hit, just a little square, just a little corner, right? And I was like, well, maybe they just don't want as intense of a trip. So I ate the rest of the sheet, and then we were like on the porch smoking cigarettes, and he was like, hey, what'd you do with the rest of that acid? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I took it. And he was like, you took all of it? And I was like, yeah. Like confused, like, yeah, I took all of it. And he was like, oh God, no. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, dude, you might need to go lay down. And I was like, starting to get nervous. I was like, bro, don't get me in this realm of space before the shit kicks in. I want a good mindset and everything, so it's a good trip, right? So we made the decision to go back to the little river, the little creek that runs through the property. So we walk back through the woods, and it's starting to kind of kick in a little bit. Like the leaves were like really vibrant and like almost like vibrating, like in a shaking kind of vibrating way. And whenever I would point at something, like my finger and my hand, there was tracers. So like, you know, it's almost like a delayed reaction. So you're seeing like a trail of your finger and arm and stuff. And I was starting to feel it, and I was like, yeah, this is nice. And I started to get like this really peaceful, warm feeling over my chest. And I was like, God, this is amazing. And we get to the creek, and we're all kind of doing our thing. John's off, like, you know, 20 feet away doing his thing in the river, probably tripping a little bit. So is his friend. His friend's on the other side, like hanging out, playing with stuff. And I'm sitting on the edge of the creek playing with this rock. And I was like, man, I don't really remember what I was thinking, but I remember playing with this rock and trying to fit it together with this other rock. Like, and from my perspective, they were almost like melting and forming together. Kind of like I took a couple pieces of Play-Doh and I just squished them together and molded them into one piece. I felt like I was doing that with rocks. And it was really weird. And then I look at this one rock and the sun is coming through the trees in such a way, because at this time it's probably like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And the sun's starting to come through the trees in a certain way. And it was really nice. And then I look at this big rock that's on the ground, and it started to turn like a dark yellow, and then like orangish, and then it really fast went to like red, like the whole thing was red, just that rock. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, yeah, red rock. I was like, that's weird. And I didn't really think a lot about it. And I look at the creek, and the creek is like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, I could see the creek, but the creek was like thin, like almost like a pencil. Like, it started to thin out a lot like a pencil and like go in one straight line. And I could see that, but I could also see regularly like what the creek actually looked like. So it was like I had like 2 different visions. And it was really fucking weird, because I never experienced anything like that before, so I didn't really know how to react or what to think in my brain. So a lot of it was probably my fault, because I was like crazy in my head. It was like crazy things bouncing back and forth, and I just couldn't like keep a control on it. And so the sun starts going down a little bit more, and things are starting to, tense up a little bit. Like now things are, melting. Things are not what they seem to be. I'm looking around at the trees, and there's eyes everywhere, and I see faces everywhere and eyeballs everywhere, and everything has like an invisible outline to it. It's hard to explain unless you've been on acid and experienced this. But it was like everything had like a clear, translucent outline. Like everything was kind of like dipped in a clear jelly and then just put back. And it was really fucking strange. And then at first I thought I was by myself for some reason walking back down this trail. And I hear a noise like to the side of me, and it was John and his friend coming up behind me. And I look back and I got startled, and that like sent this weird like shock kind of goosebump thing through my body. It was like something switched when I got startled. And I looked at his friend, and his friend was smiling at me, and while I'm looking at him and walking forward, I trip and I land on my side. And then I roll over to my back, and now I'm looking up at John and his friend who's smiling at me. But that smile, to me, started to become like really kind of evil. It was like he had bad intentions is what I felt. And his head started to get sharp, like the tip of his head, like it started to like kind of go into a pyramid kind of, but not as pointed at the top. It was kind of rounded, but still going to a point. And I was like, what in the fuck? And then I look at John, and he's like down on one knee, like 5 feet away from me, down on one knee. And he's got his hand on my shoulder. And I remember looking at his friend, seeing all that, and like a couple seconds, and then I look over at him with his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, dude, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like something like, dude, are you all right? Dude, are you all right? And I responded, and whatever I said made them laugh, but the fucking laugh was not okay. It was like to me, I felt like it was confirmation for them to be like, haha, Now we can get to work killing him. And then I got that same overwhelming feeling through my body that was like kind of when you get goosebumps, but it was like a lot sharper. Like it felt like someone just took something and ran it down my whole body with like a sharp edge. And I was like, I was not feeling it. Because, yeah, it's just really hard to explain. So I got up, and now I'm like, I feel like there was like almost like a filter over my eyes because everything was like hazy and like a red hazy, like a reddish orange kind of haze, and everything was that color after I fell. And I started to freak out, and this instance where I go to turn around from them, I get up after I fell, I go to turn around, and it was like everything was in slow motion, like so slow. And I could not, for the fucking life of me, move my leg any faster. But I was like putting so much force into it. It was like I was trying to go through quicksand or something like that. And but in reality, someone that's not on drugs, looking from an outside perspective, I was just moving at normal speed. So but yeah, I go to turn around and I can't move fast at all, and I'm trying to like jog, but it's like so like thick, like I feel like I'm trying to go through thick air, like the air is really thick and it's holding me back and it's weighing me down, and everything's, you know, red at that same time. So I felt like I was gonna die. I started feeling like I was gonna die, and this is the end. And these two guys that I thought were my friends are not my friends, and they're like some evil fucking demon entities that have been sent to the earth to fucking destroy me. And it was all bad after that, dude. I ended up getting out of the tree line. Like, it wasn't a far trail. I get to the tree line, and it's, you know, the clear opening for our backyard, which is like a solid acre. And then I walk along the tree line. For some reason, that made me feel safer going across or walking alongside the bushes and the trees to get back home. And I don't know how long it took me exactly to walk that, 75 yards, but it felt like it took me about 3.5 hours, like real time. That's what it really felt like for me. Like time was moving that slow, but in reality, it was just, normal time passing. But inside of this little thing that I'm inside of, time was moving so slow, I could look at my watch. If I just say I had a watch on and I looked at it, the fucking hands would be tick, tick, tick. And it would, that's how slow it was. But I felt like if I, just popped outside of this bubble that I was inside of, I could watch myself move really slow in real time. So it was, I know this might not make sense, but it was really fucking confusing and fucked up for me. And it was really fucking with me because I thought I was going to be stuck in this slow state of existence where my entire life was going to be slow, because I knew that time was still moving at a normal pace. But for me, every second felt like, 5 minutes. And it was fucking, I was scared because I was like, man, I'm never going to come out of this and I'm going to live like this for fucking thousands of years, in the time that I was in. So I got really scared. This whole time, John and his friend are right behind me. And we had a porch, a back porch that was, you could go underneath of. It was 4 feet of space under the back porch. And I ended up, when I got back to the trailer, I ended up crawling through this little hole that was made in the barrier. I crawled up underneath the porch, and that's where I stayed for the next 12 hours. I just did not feel safe coming out. So we got back to the trailer, I crawled under, and John and his friend were kind of, they sat on the stairs for a little while, and they tried to calm me down and talk to me, and, they were smoking cigarettes and trying to calm me down and, make everything okay again. But I was too far gone at that point that I just had to wait for it, to wear off and get out of the trip. So, but this entire time they're sitting there trying to talk me down and calm me down, and I felt this overwhelming feeling of distrust within both of them, and I didn't listen to a fucking word they said. I tried to get rid of their voices out of my head, like not pay attention to anything except for what was going on right then and there in front of me, which was nothing. So I don't know what I was focusing on, but I was like, I gotta focus on this. You know what I mean? Not what they're doing, because they want to kill me and they're evil, and I need to be doing this. But it was nothing. I wasn't doing anything but laying there trying to fucking sober up. So, but yeah, they ended up leaving. They were like, all right, man, I hope, you're gonna be fine, dude. Just sleep it off. You'll be all right. And they took off. And then I was by myself under this porch in the woods. Mom's not home. Her boyfriend's not home. No neighbors. And like, I had all this, I knew, like, all that information was like being dumped into my head at once. And I knew where I was. I knew how alone I was. I knew nobody was around after they left. And I was just high as fuck on acid. Like, and even under the porch, things were still, melting and vibrant and looked like they had like a translucent outline. But at the same time, I had that filter over my eyes that made everything look like a different color, kind of, but not really. I mean, it was just like a camera filter almost. And I also felt like I couldn't trust a single person. So I felt like I was on a mission to do nothing and go nowhere except for, just be come to myself almost. It was like, I need to find myself, kind of, but not in the way you're probably thinking of, but like I need to like search out and find myself, because I'm the only person I can trust. And I had some pretty badass visuals, but that overwhelming feeling of like evil, fucking distrusting, and just not being okay with talking to anybody, it was fucked up. So it was I got a little bit of best of both worlds on that trip for my first time. And then, time went on. My mom was out she came back the next morning, and I was talking to her, and she asked me about the acid, and I told her about what we did and stuff, and she was like, where's the rest of it? And I was like, I ate the rest of it. And she was like, are you fucking kidding? She was like, that was like $300 worth of acid that you just ate at once, or more money than that. I don't remember. She was like, I can't believe you're not dead. She was like, you are not supposed to take that much acid. Are you fucking stupid? And I was like, well, nobody told me how much to take. So I was just doing what I saw in the movie, which is a dumb thing to do. But I was just a kid with a lot of acid, and I really wanted to try to see what it was like. So I know next time, if there is a next time, moderation for sure. Yeah, for sure, moderation. But yeah, I did that, and I feel like that had some kind of effect on the rest of my life, like growing up and just going on from there. I'm not sure what kind of effect it had, but it had some kind of effect on my life after that, because you just don't have an intense, like, visual, spiritual trip like that and come out the exact same as you were before you even took the acid. But yeah, most things are definitely best used in moderation. Acid can be really good if you know what you're doing, and you set the right environment and you got the right people around you and stuff, because that was mine. My story is a good example of the opposite of that. You know what I mean? Which is like John's friend was a stranger to me and I didn't know him. And my brain knew that without, it just subconsciously knew that I didn't know him. And maybe that's why shit kind of went south. But I learned a lot from it, I guess. So, but let that be a lesson to you. If you're gonna buy a sheet of acid, don't eat the entire sheet. Maybe do a hit or two at a time. So yeah, but I've experienced a lot with psychedelics. I've done a lot of mushrooms. I've done, acid, ether, mescaline, ecstasy, which I don't consider a psychedelic. Some people do, but it's definitely not a psychedelic in any way at all, because depending on what kind of ecstasy you get, it's literally just MDMA. And if you get pressed or like warehouse pressed shit that people made, in a garage or something, most of the time it's like heroin, meth, and maybe a little bit of something else, but just pressed into a pill. But most ecstasy has meth in it and heroin, at least in my experience. I don't know. Maybe that's all that was available to me at the time, but there is some really good ecstasy out there, though. I've had some really good experiences with ecstasy, and now that I think about it, talking about it right now, I was dating this girl, and we lived at her grandma's house, and I ended up getting a job at Burger King down the street, and the night before my first day of work, I ended up doing a ton of fucking ecstasy all night with my girlfriend and her, her boy best friend. And we did a lot of ecstasy and mostly crushed them and snorted them up. So my nose had like a green ring around it. And because we got green Buddhas, so it had a green ring around it, and it was really crazy, and my pupils were fucking huge. I got to work my first day at my job, and I look in the bathroom, and my pupils are literally the size of my entire fucking eye, damn near. And I got this green powder all around my nose, and it was just all fucking bad. But come to find out, I knew my boss that was there with me that morning at Burger King. Comes to find out that she literally also lived right next door to me in the trailer park, or she moved in next door to me in the trailer park like 4 years before I moved out. And she had a son named Eli, and me and my brothers used to hang out and play with him and stuff. And we figured that out that morning, and it was crazy. It was crazy. A weird experience with my fast food job, high on ecstasy, and meeting my boss, but realizing that we know each other. Crazy fucking morning that was. But anyway, that is a story for another episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I might not have done the best job describing what my trip was like on acid, but it was a long time ago. It was like 12, 13 years ago. So it was quite a while ago, and it's pretty hard to remember how I felt back then. So anyway, I hope you guys are having fun, enjoying this weather. It's storming like a motherfucker this morning, so I really, really like that. But anyway, guys, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it if you listen to these all the way through. I do put in some actual work and actual money in this podcast, so it makes me feel really good to see people downloading it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or whatever. I'm all over all these fucking directories let me name some off really quick. I got a list of some directories that I'm on. So I'm on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, Pod Addict, Deezer, and Listen Notes, as well as I'm also on YouTube. So if you want to listen to any older episodes, like my first episode that I recorded, I talk about being released from child prison and going to live with my mom. So if you want to hear more in depth about those stories and stuff like that, you can go to my YouTube, Heinz TV, and listen to all those older episodes and stuff like that. So bear with me though, they're a little rough. I was just kind of getting my bearings and trying to figure out what I was doing with podcasting back then. So and I still am, and I probably still will for years to come. So it's just gonna be a process. So I want to say how much I appreciate anybody that supports this and listens to it and downloads it on a regular basis. So anyway, guys, it's been fun, but I gotta go. I don't know where I gotta go, but I gotta fucking not be here. Anyway, go tell your mama that you love her. Go tell your dad that you love her. Go grab your little brother or sister, put them in a fucking chokehold, and kiss them right on the motherfucking face and tell them how much you appreciate them, because one day you could get in your car and die and never be able to say anything to them again. So let them know how you feel now before it's too fucking late, guys. All right, until next time, peace the fuck out.